Welcome back. You're watching To The Point. Last night, General VK Singh tweeted calling the media prostitutes. It happened after his comment that the press does not find his presence in Yemen exciting was distorted by some channels to claim he doesn't find his work in Yemen exciting and was insulting Indians. So was the general provoked into an indiscretion? And does that make it understandable? Or is this yet another example of the former army chief and minister embarrassing himself and his government? My guests are former Army Chief General Ved Prakash Malik, BJP spokesperson Shaina NC, Congress spokesperson Khushbu Sundar, the consulting editor of TV Today Network Rajdeep Sardesai, and one of India's foremost sociologists, Ashish Nandi. Professor Nandi, yesterday, the former Army Chief and now Minister of State for External Affairs General VK Singh tweeted, and I'm quoting, "Friends, what do you expect from prostitutes?" Now, you're an academic, you're politically neutral, you're objective. Is this acceptable language from a four-star general and a minister?
Well, frankly speaking, it has become acceptable from ministers nowadays. All sorts of people become ministers, but it is not acceptable from a general.
In other words, this is not the language you expect
Generals
from an officer and a gentleman. So, as a former general, you're saying that General VK Singh has dropped the standards you expect of generals?
I would say he has disgraced his former designation.
He's disgraced his former designation. You'll go as strong as that?
I will go as strong as that.
Rajdeep, on the other hand, General VK Singh's comment was perhaps provoked by the fact that his earlier comment that the press did not find his being in Yemen as exciting as attending a Pakistan National Day celebration was distorted by some channels who made it seem as if he had claimed he didn't find his work in Yemen exciting and that therefore they concluded he was insulting Indians. Does that excuse or explain his calling the media prostitutes?
I think there are two parts to it, Karan. I think it's very clear that a section of the media, perhaps deliberately, almost didn't catch the sarcasm, which was almost explicit in what the general was saying. I mean, anyone who heard the general would have seen that he was being sarcastic. Having said that, Karan, for a general, or importantly, I would go for a member of the Council of Ministers, why just a general, but a member of the Council of Ministers, to call journalists prostitutes in a very generic fashion. He can't get away by saying, you know, he was singling out a particular journalist or a particular channel. My sense is he was effectively trying to suggest that this entire media is prostituted itself, and that is a very unfortunate thing for a general. It's institutional calumny. It's not about an individual. It's institutional calumny targeting every journalist. If he has a problem with a specific journalist, he can take that up with that journalist. Why target the entire media and play to the gallery almost to denigrate the fourth estate? That's my problem.
General Malik, like General VK Singh, you've been army chief. Like him, you faced difficult, awkward moments with the press. Do you think General VK Singh's prostitute comment was justified by the background that people had distorted his tweet? Or do you think calling journalists prostitutes is an error that as a minister, as a former army chief, he should have shown both more restraint and discretion?
Karan, General VK Singh has had a long and a distinguished career in the army. And even now when he's become a minister, he continues to be called general. He calls himself a general, and the others, including the media, call him a general. The work that he is doing, he was a good field commander, and he continues to do good work even now in Yemen and Djibouti. However, I do not support him with the kind of statements that he has been making, or the calling names and making these insensitive statements. I think he's causing embarrassment both to the government as well as people like me who were chiefs before him or after him.
Professor Nandi a moment ago said that this comment, prostitutes, disgraces the office of Army Chief which General VK Singh once held. Would you agree with that comment?
Yes, of course. As I said, that, you know, these kind of loose statements, insensitive statements, unwarranted statements, calling people names, I don't think he is doing any credit to the government of India in which he is serving now, or to the chairs that he has occupied, and that chair was occupied by people like me before him.
Shaina NC, earlier today when asked to defend General VK Singh, Sambit Patra, your colleague and an official spokesman of your party, said that tweets were personal comments and only the general could explain what he meant. Now, to my ears, that sounds as if Sambit Patra is distancing the BJP from General VK Singh and not defending General VK Singh. Would you agree?
I don't think there's a question that whether we're defending him or whether we subscribe to that opinion, because the party's made it amply clear that we have nothing to say vis-a-vis a comment which is made on a free forum such as Twitter and on the social media. I mean, I think you need to ask the general whether what he was trying to imply, whether he was trying to say that, you know, there is a certain section of the media that tends to be prejudiced or not. It is entirely for him to answer. But I would only want to say one thing, Karan, that on the social media, there are lots of things that people say and express, some of which can be understood in a particular way, some of which can be misconstrued. It is for Mr. Singh to reply as to what he meant, whether he felt that the media was being prejudiced, because from what I've gathered, this is not a terminology which has not been used by others in the past. Not that the BJP subscribes to it at all, and the BJP is very clear that on a social platform where people have the forum to air independent opinions, one can't be stopping everyone.
You know, you twice in that answer said that this is not a language or a terminology that the BJP subscribes to in any way. Let me ask you this. Would you rather General VK Singh had not used the word prostitute to describe journalists?
Yes, I as a woman particularly would not have wanted this terminology used, but as I said, whether it's an implication to suggest that prostitute means a prejudice and not the way we are trying to confer, that is entirely for the general to answer.
Khushbu, unfortunately you're only with us on a phone line, not by video. How does the Congress respond to government ministers calling journalists prostitutes? In these circumstances, do you believe that what General VK Singh said was understandable and excusable, or do you believe it's offensive and therefore unforgivable? Which of the two?
I think it's completely offensive and unforgivable. We do not understand why someone of Mr. General VK Singh's stature could use such a language against the press. If you look at the BJP on the whole, Karanji, I think they all have been falling into the same bracket, calling names of different kinds, using offensive words against people. And when it comes to the press, till the press was talking very good about the Modi government, everything was fine. But the minute they start questioning, these kind of words keep coming out.
Let me put it like this, Professor Nandi. This is sadly not the first time General VK Singh as a minister has ended up embarrassing his government. Just 2 weeks ago, on the 23rd of March, his tweets suggested that he had only attended the Pakistan National Day reception because he was forced by duty to do so, and he then went on to suggest that he was disgusted at having to do so. Last year, shortly after he became a minister, he tweeted effectively calling the person who's now become Army Chief General Sohag a criminal and effectively suggesting General Sohag supports dacoity. Does all of this suggest that General VK Singh is careless, perhaps irresponsible in the way he uses language? Or would you go further and say this track record suggests he's a serial offender?
I would suspect that he is not exposed to politics. The army people live a rather isolated, reclusive life most of their life. It's a different world. There are many good things about it, but also certain handicaps with the pickup on the way.
But army chiefs have never before tweeted and spoken in public in this sort of indiscreet way.
Yes, it's very irresponsible and infantile, I should say.
This is infantile.
Yes, I mean, and nobody does that. I mean, even you don't say about your worst enemies.
So when you say this sort of language, this sort of tweeting is infantile, I take it you're suggesting that General VK Singh is being both silly and childish.
It's silly indeed, and childish too.
Rajdeep, let me put this to you. Because General VK Singh actually has sadly a track record of involving himself in controversies that goes back, frankly speaking, many years. There was a point in time after he stopped being army chief when he was, it was believed, trying to stop General Sohag's promotion to army chief, and everyone in the media concluded he was doing it because his somebody, General Ashok Singh, was next in line. Then there were claims that he made on television that the army had regularly bribed all politicians in Jammu and Kashmir. Then there were the suspicious troop movements of 2012. No one knows the truth of them, but there have been different versions. And finally, there's that blatant fact that as army chief, he took his own government to court and shocked everyone. What does all of this tell us about General VK Singh?
I think it tells us that clearly General VK Singh is someone who's always spoiling for a fight, who seems to be someone who's always likes to be almost in the eye of a controversy. Let me say, the behavior of some of my fellow media persons has also not been appropriate in my view. I think there has been a tendency to sensationalize. There has been a tendency to misconstrue what the general says. But having said that, is the general now wanting to take, he seems to be in this constantly adversarial relationship with the media. It happened during the age controversy. It's happened now when he's a minister. Now, as a minister, as an army chief, are you an anti-establishment hero? Or are you someone who's supposed to live a life of discipline, of self-restraint, of working with the system? My problem is the general seems to have a very different image of himself than the one that he should really have, just as a section of the media is also at the moment suffering from a grievous credibility crisis. Okay. And the general is seeking to exploit that by targeting the media and calling us prostitutes.
General Malik, let me ask you two questions. Looking at the track record General VK Singh has, going right back to the days when perhaps he was an army commander and getting involved in controversies, do you get the feeling that sometimes he puts his personal concerns ahead of other issues and that he gives priority to things that he thinks personally are important regardless of the impact they'll have?
I don't think that would be entirely true. While I agree that he should not have taken the government to the court on his age because that was his personal issue. I do not subscribe to that, what he did. But I don't think we can make a very general statement because anyone in that position, army commander or any commander in the army, he has to look after his subordinates, otherwise he cannot reach that kind of a rank.
What about something else? General VK Singh was army chief for 40 years before he became he was in the army for 40 years, rose to be chief before he became a minister. That is the institution with which he is most closely identified. How today do you think the army views his comments? And there's a whole range of them that he's been making. Does it make the army wince, or does it not matter to the army at all?
Karan, I have already said that I mean, these kind of loose statements, uncalled for statements, calling people names, it hurts the image of the army. It definitely hurts the image of the chiefs who have been before him and after him. So my advice to VK Singh would be to stop making such statements even on the Twitter, which cause embarrassment to him, to the government in which he serves, and to his predecessors and successors in the armed forces.
Shanayansi, you were good enough to say that the word prostitute was one that you'd rather he hadn't used. You also have said that he has to explain what he means by it. There are many journalists who are objective people and would be offended to be called prostitutes. The clear implication is that he's trying to be clever and pun and suggest they are prostitutes who sell themselves for whatever favor they can get. Do you think General VK Singh owes an apology to journalists?
I think it could also mean, Karan, by that same connotation, that it could be press institutes. I think that Rajdeep's assessment is absolutely fair, where there is a certain section of the media that chooses to cover what they want to cover, and there is a certain sense of credibility issue which could be a cause. Having said that, I don't think this commentary was warranted. It is a personal opinion shared on a social platform where there are lots of people who air all kinds of opinions, pun indented, sarcastic, sometimes even questionable whether they are caustic or not. But having said that, I think that the more important point that we need to be focusing on is what was he actually trying to say, which only he will be able to answer. Because if he is talking about a prejudice in the media to sidetrack certain stories and talk about certain, it is...
You said something very important. In that answer, you said, I don't believe this commentary was warranted. You also repeated that only he can say what he meant. Do you think at the least he owes journalists an explanation? Even if not an apology, does he need to explain?
Well, you need to ask him, not me. I haven't been the one who's been tweeting on his behalf. Oh, I'm not his spokesperson. I'm the spokesperson of my party.
Khushbu Sundar, so far, none of General VK Singh's indiscretions or controversies have got any response from the Prime Minister, and there have been at least 3 in the last 11 months. What do you make of that?
It's very surprising that nobody from the BJP party wants to comment on what the people have been saying in their party. Time and again, we have been seeing people using offensive languages. We have been saying they have been absolutely abusive to the media as well as the others, and the kind of language they have been using for the opposition party also is not acceptable. What I see is the serial offenders feel there is a space for them to speak further. It's because there's absolutely no reprimand from the Prime Minister or the party president, Shri Amit Shah. They need to be put a full stop to this. They need to say that you cannot use offensive language. They need to make them understand that you have to respect every medium, what they have been referring to. Even if it's Twitter, it's a platform for you to vent out your frustrations like Major VK Singh has done it. But I think it has to be done within the limitations, and what Major VK Singh has done, it's completely unacceptable because there's no apology. And secondly, we also need to understand that they're not only demeaning the press, the Department of the Press, but also the women who he calls in such a deploring manner, calling them as prostitutes.
I'm stopping you there because unfortunately that phone line is less than clear and it's becoming a little difficult to follow what you're saying, but I think the full gist of what you were saying has come across, even if not every individual word. A quick question to you, Professor Nandi. There's no doubt that General VK Singh has repeatedly embarrassed the government. They may be silent, the party may not want to comment, but the embarrassment is there. The mere fact that we're talking about a minister in this way in a studio is embarrassing. Should the Prime Minister sack General VK Singh, or at least move him from external affairs to a less high-profile ministry where his indiscretions do less damage?
A less high-profile ministry which involves lesser interactions with the media. Because if you ask me, I would say the relationship between media and any regime whatsoever will always be ambivalent and slightly adversarial. And that is normal and natural.
But there is one point to that. There's one point to what Professor is saying. And you've raised that, Karan. The Prime Minister himself has on more than one occasion called the media of this country news traders. He has done it repeatedly over the last 18 months at various stages, particularly in the build-up to Lok Sabha 2014.
But never, to be fair, after becoming Prime Minister.
Yes, but he did it when he was the BJP's Prime Ministerial candidate. He kept calling the media, or a section of the media who asked uncomfortable questions, news traders. My view is that the general is taking the cue from his general. If the Prime Minister has contempt for the media, then the general will say, look, I'm only reflecting what my Prime Minister is saying. And if Shaina NC Karan believes that social media is where you can express personal opinion, surely as a member of the Council of Ministers, your personal opinion will eventually be seen as the opinion of the government of India.
Okay. General VP Malik, let me put one last question to you.
May I respond?
Just a moment, I'll come to Shaina. General Malik, do you believe there is a sense in which the press is picking on and targeting General VK Singh? Or sections of the press, if not the press as a whole? Or do you think that by saying these things and getting himself in controversies, he's presenting himself as a convenient sitting target? Which do you think it is? Is he being picked upon, or is he offering himself as a target?
Look, when there is an adversarial relations between an individual and the media, I think both sides are to blame to some extent. Maybe one more than the other, but apparently there is something wrong in that kind of a relationship. And I think it is his personal view, personal attitude. I don't think you can blame the entire government or the Prime Minister or anyone. These are, a mindset kind of a problem, which he needs to correct. Now that he is a active political leader, he has to be more restrained, use understatement rather than using such offensive language, because he is unnecessarily provoking the press and everybody else also, and causing embarrassment there. So I think he needs to correct himself, and it has nothing to do with the institution that he is serving now or in which he had served earlier.
Shaina NC, you wanted a word. You can have the last word. After all, you represent today the BJP. I presume, even if you don't want to defend, you still represent General VK Singh. I'll let you have the last word in whatever shape and form you want, hopefully to defend him and not distance yourself from him.
Well, I just want to say to Rajdeep's comment that the Prime Minister had been targeted for over 12 years and he chose to stay silent. Post coming to power, he has said on the floor of the House that he doesn't subscribe to any regressive commentary. Whether Prestitute means what we are inferring or whether it means press institutes is something for General VK Singh to answer. All I want to say is that the BJP is not going to be derailed. We're here for a progressive government and good governance, and that is the only agenda.
I am going to interrupt by pointing out something to you. I'm going to interrupt by pointing something to you. Two things, in fact. One, that you chose to answer to defend the Prime Minister, not defend General VK Singh. That's quite important. I want the audience to note it. And secondly, in response to your statement that Prestitute might just possibly mean Press Institute, I believe I'm right, I'm saying from memory that the full tweet went on to say, this time naming Arnab Goswami, that he chose to spell the word with an O rather than an E. Prestitute with an O is a very different word. I won't say it, I'm far too polite, but it's a very different word. Anyway, let's leave it there. We leave this to General VK Singh and his conscience and his sense of good taste. My thanks to my four guests for joining me, and if you have been, thanks for watching the program. Goodbye. Good night.